Right, these notes are going to cover the Maya, a native population to the Yucatan Peninsula, which is southern Mexico, that actually disappeared. We're not quite sure what happened to them. So the Yucatan Peninsula is the pointy part of Mexico that sticks out and sort of forms the Gulf of Mexico. It's sort of like Mexico's pointing at Florida. There's a lot of vegetation, there's a lot of land, but it's also different terrain. You have jungle, you have Rocky Mountain, you have coastline. It's very, very diverse there in Mesoamerica. They are known mostly for their classical period, which is the early part of the CE time frame, essentially. They have massive cities which had pyramid structures, just like there are pyramids found in Mesopotamia, and there are obviously the pyramids of Egypt and Nubia. And these people are never ever in contact with any of the cultures from the Eastern Hemisphere. They have a lot of palaces, they have a lot of stone carvings. Each urban center, each city center had an arena, right, where this is like the stadium seats that you would have, and you played a ritual ball game. And there's various adaptations to this ritual ball game, but the sort of most hardcore one is that two different groups would play until one of them won by kicking the ball into the hoop you see in the bottom left or bottom right hand picture, and the people who lost were sacrificed to the gods. So make sure that you're really good at the game. There's a video that we may be able to watch that actually sort of explains it a little bit better. Mayan city-states were similar to the city-states of Greece in that they are independent areas, but that they were linked together for military and for trading use. They had maize, they had beans, they had squash. A lot of typical Thanksgiving foods come out of Mexico, so they came out of the Maya civilization as well. They had a very structured social structure, with obviously the king and the religious leaders at the top, most like every other social structure, and at the very bottom are the poor, and everyone else falls in between. This should not be surprising. This is the typical social structure for essentially every civilization that we talk about. They have a polytheistic religion, and they had gods who were good, evil, or both. So you could have gods that were fluctuating much more like a human would. They had a calendar. I think everyone's aware that the Maya had a calendar that supposedly predicted the end of the world in 2012, and since we're still here, obviously that was wrong. But basically, the system was set into place so that you had different days and different gods for each day, and that would predict different natural disasters and that sort of thing based on which god was in power at the time. They do have human sacrifices to make sure that there's balance in the world, and to, like, you could sacrifice to the god of rain if you needed more rain in a drought or that sort of thing. Human sacrifices generally happened in all three Mesoamerican groups, and basically if you were a pretty young teenage girl, you were probably going to end up sacrificed. This website, which you can find the URL at the top of the screen, I think that's the whole thing. Yeah, that URL will take you to this website, which shows you the way in which the Maya calendar worked. So they had glyphs, which are little sort of like pictograms, little pictures that mean words. And there were 20 different days in a month. And then you had 19 months. So you would do 20 times 19 to give you how many days they would have in a year. And then they also had an interesting math system, which we will, if we have time, we'll put together an activity to learn how to do Maya math. But it is on what's called a base 20 system. So while we do tens and hundreds, they do 20s and 200s, which makes it a little bit more complicated for us. Excuse me, but it's the same sort of system. So here's their math, which is what I was talking about. So their religion was tied into their calendar, studying the stars for astronomy based on the gods and their paths and that sort of thing, are going to lead to a couple of different innovations. Like that calendar that predicted the end of the world was a calendar based on 260 days, but they also had a solar calendar that was 365 days, just like our calendar today, which is technically 365 and 1/4. It's how we have a leap day every 4 years. But that's very, very accurate for a culture that didn't have the technological advances of Europe and Asia. They were using just people studying the stars to come up with the fact that we went around the sun every 365 days. That's pretty cool. This is an example of math and what their numbers look like. So this shell symbol is 0, 1 dot obviously for 1, 2 dots for 2, 3 dots for 3, and then there's lines. So it's sort of a combination of Roman numerals and Arabic systems. So in this example at the top, it shows you that you had a 20, which is the top one, and then plus a 5 and 3 dots makes an 8. Whereas this is a 400, this is a 20, and then this is 10 plus 3. If I follow this link, it will take us to a different page, which will give us a little bit more information about math. So if you want, you can Google like Maya math and living Maya time. Apparently you can find it, and it actually gives you a whole little game to play where you learn to do Mayan math. So just really quickly, because we don't have a lot of time on this video, I'll show you. If you click practice round, it tells you like this is how you make 0, and then it says great job. Then to make a 1, then you need 2 dots to make a 2. Alright, so if we go on to round 2, then it talks about making bigger numbers. So on our system, a base 10 system, you would need 100 to get 139. Then you would need 10. We need 3 tens. There's 3 in the tens place, right? And then in the ones place, we have 9. So 5 plus 4 is 9. 139, right? So round 3, that's not what they use. They use what's called a base 20 system. So theirs is 1's place, 20's place, and 400's place. So for make 482, I need 1 400, right? And then I need 80 in the 20's place. So I need 4 20's to make 8, right? Because 8 divided by 2 is 4. So then you would need 4 in the 20's place, and then obviously 2. So I'm going to try again, right? To make 65, I know I need 5, but how many 20's do I need to get 60? 60 divided by 20, you need 3 20's. So it gets a little more complicated. So I will put that into comments on the video so you can get to this page, because that's pretty cool. Alright. So they had 800 images in their writing system, which is, significantly less than we talked about some of the ancient Chinese that had 10,000 symbols in there. So it's a little bit easier than Chinese, but certainly way more complicated than an alphabet-based system like the Romance languages are. They recorded their history in a codex, in a book, and they actually use glyphs in this type of system. They have glyphs that tell you what's going on, but then they also have the pictures that go with them. The Popol Vuh is the most famous codex, and it actually includes their creation story in it. So we don't really know what happened to the Maya. There's lots of different theories, including that there was some warfare that took place, but we know that those cities were inhabited in the 900s. So we're not thinking really that the 700s warfare led to the complete destruction of the civilization. We know that the population was growing and that maybe they ended up actually starving themselves because of production needs and taking all the nutrients out of the soil. The only thing we really know is that when the Spanish arrive in Mexico in the 1500s, they do not find Maya people, and the other cultures around them that get taken up by the Aztecs at various points in history don't have any records or any stories of what happened to the Maya. So it's very, very confusing. That's also why it led to, if you see the political cartoon over there, the calendar being so suspicious, is that we really didn't know what happened to them. So it's not like you can go back through history and find out why their calendar stopped in 2012. All right. So there you have it. That's the Maya.